When people think of Friday night, many think of Blockbuster. For decades, a trip to Blockbuster was a family ritual. People walked into bright stores, their faces lit by the glow of television trailers, rows and rows of VHS tapes, later, DVDs. The bold blue and yellow sign meant a night of choice. The memory feels small now, like a half-forgotten dream. But back then, it felt very big. The start of the weekend. A special kind of hunt. A search for the perfect film to share. More than a transaction, a cherished routine, a small piece of weekend happiness. For millions of families, Blockbuster wasn't just a store, it was a weekend ritual. So how did a company this powerful disappear almost overnight? If you enjoy deep dive stories about iconic brands and how they rise and fall, consider subscribing for more documentaries like this. Blockbuster did not start as a giant. It began with a simple idea from a man named David Cook. In 1985, he opened the first Blockbuster store in Dallas, Texas. Most video stores were small, with limited selection. Cook saw a chance to do something different. He wanted a big, well-organized superstore for videos. Thousands of titles so a family would never leave disappointed. Clean, bright, family-friendly. Renting movies felt easier and more enjoyable. The idea worked better than anyone could have imagined. Through the late 1980s, Blockbuster expanded at a breathtaking pace, across the country, then across the world. Advanced computer systems tracked tapes and demand. The franchise model powered rapid expansion. Blue and yellow became recognizable everywhere. See the sign, know the experience. Blockbuster changed how people watched movies at home. It became a social hub and a default choice for millions. The slogan matched reality. Financially, it was a giant, generating billions each year. A big portion came from what customers disliked: late fees. The model was incredibly profitable and kept inventory circulating. At the peak, Blockbuster felt unstoppable, part of the cultural landscape. From that vantage, competition seemed unimaginable. Even at the height of its power, when the blue and yellow sign was a beacon of weekend entertainment, small cracks began to form in Blockbuster's foundation. They were almost invisible at first, but they were there, quietly undermining the colossal structure. The first and most obvious crack was the late fees. This single policy, responsible for a significant chunk of their revenue, was also the source of immense customer frustration. A simple mistake, a forgotten tape on the coffee table, could lead to a charge sometimes higher than the rental itself. It felt like being punished for being a customer. This created a constant, low-level negative feeling tied to the brand. Every trip to the store carried a small risk of financial penalty. These fees did more than annoy. They opened a door for competitors who saw an opportunity in that dissatisfaction. At the same time, the world was changing in the late 1990s. The internet, once a niche curiosity, was rapidly becoming part of daily life. People changed how they got information, how they communicated, and crucially, how they shopped. Convenience was becoming the new currency. Blockbuster was built entirely on physical media and brick-and-mortar stores, on the ritual of driving to pick up a disc. As the digital world emerged, they focused on optimizing the old model instead of inventing a new one. When DVD replaced VHS, it was just a format change, not a fundamental business model change. The real revolution wasn't the disc itself, but the delivery method. The internet offered a tantalizing promise: ways to bypass the physical store entirely. But Blockbuster's leadership, comfortable in their market dominance, didn't see the looming disruption. They viewed the internet as a novelty, not a replacement for their empire. The widespread anger over late fees was a problem just waiting for a solution. Customers loved the movies, they just hated the rules that came with them. A business model built on penalizing its own customers is inherently vulnerable. It creates an opening for anyone offering a friendlier alternative. Blockbuster saw these fees as a necessary and profitable part of the business, not a long-term existential threat. So, yeah, these were the first real cracks in the armor of a giant. And into those cracks, a new kind of competitor slipped quietly, ready to offer a world with no late fees, ever. As the 20th century drew to a close, a new company appeared on the horizon, armed with a radically different idea that would challenge the very foundations of home entertainment. That company was Netflix. Their model was deceptively simple. Rent movies online, and the DVDs would arrive directly at your door in a distinctive red envelope. Suddenly, the weekly trip to the video store was obsolete. No store to visit, no lines to wait in, and most importantly, no frustrating late fees. You could keep the movies for as long as you wanted. Soon, a revolutionary subscription plan transformed one-off rentals into a seamless, ongoing service. You simply built a queue of titles you wanted to see, and like clockwork, they showed up in your mailbox. To the reigning giant, Blockbuster, Netflix looked like a quirky, niche mail-order operation, a minor player in a game they dominated. The year 2000 marked a critical turning point, a moment that would seal the fate of both companies. Netflix founders Reed Hastings and Mark Randolph flew to Blockbuster's headquarters in Dallas with a game-changing offer. The proposal: Blockbuster would acquire Netflix for $50 million, and in return, Netflix would become Blockbuster's online brand, spearheading their entry into the digital age. They said no. It wasn't just a rejection, it was a dismissal, delivered with an air of superiority and a profound lack of interest. The Blockbuster leadership team saw no significant future in subscriptions or mail-order DVDs. They couldn't see past their own successful formula. Today, that decision is cited as one of the biggest missed opportunities in modern business history. Instead of adapting to a changing world, they clung tightly to their thousands of physical stores and the immense profitability of late fees. This single choice set the two companies on dramatically different and irreversible paths. Blockbuster continued on, blissfully unaware of the iceberg looming just ahead on the horizon. Meanwhile, a rejected but determined Netflix went back to work, ready to prove the entire industry wrong. This is the moment many people point to as the turning point. Let me know in the comments. Do you think Blockbuster could have survived, or was its collapse inevitable? Then, in 2007, Netflix delivered its masterstroke. It launched Watch instantly, ushering in the era of streaming and signaling the beginning of the end for physical media. Now you could watch what you want, when you want, instantly. There was no more waiting, not even for the mailman and his red envelopes. For the second time, Netflix had anticipated and led a major shift in how people consumed entertainment. Blockbuster finally tried to respond with its own streaming service and mail-order plan, but it was too little, too late. Their entire business model was tied to thousands of expensive physical stores. They were an anchor, not an asset, and they couldn't pivot nearly as fast as their digital native competitor. Customer traffic fell off a cliff. Shelves stayed full of unwanted inventory. The magic of the Friday night video run faded into memory, and the financial losses mounted. The slow, painful decline had begun, and for the once mighty Blockbuster, there was simply no turning back. The end came not with a bang, but with a long, drawn-out whimper. It was a slow erosion, a gradual shift in habits that the giant failed to see as a seismic threat. The central question became one of convenience. Why drive, hope they have your movie, and rush to return it, when you could browse an endless library from your own couch? Netflix wasn't the only disruptor chipping away at their dominance. Bright red kiosks from a company called Redbox began appearing everywhere, offering the newest releases for just $1 a day, right where people were already shopping. No membership, no late fees, just pure convenience. The empire crumbled store by store. Signs came down across the country as the company hemorrhaged money. In September 2010, Blockbuster filed for bankruptcy, buried under nearly $1 billion in debt. Dish Network bought the remnants, hoping to revive the brand and challenge Netflix at its own game. Fewer stores stayed open, and a Blockbuster on-demand service relaunched. But the competition was too far ahead. The name felt outdated, and securing streaming licenses from studios proved to be a costly, complex battle they were unprepared to fight. Each closure became a small local event, a moment of shared nostalgia and sadness for a place that had been part of so many lives. By early 2014, the final corporate stores were gone. the official end of an era. It's a cautionary tale taught in business schools worldwide. Even the biggest leaders can fall, and fall quickly, if they fail to adapt to the changing world around them. For many who grew up with it, the Friday night ritual was now officially just a memory, a story to tell the next generation. Today, just one store remains: Bend, Oregon. A lone survivor against all odds. It operates as a living museum, managed with love and dedication. A community hub and a perfect time capsule of a bygone decade. You can even book a sleepover, a 90s Friday night, rebottled and preserved for a new generation to experience. The story of Blockbuster is not just about the fall of one company. It is a timeless lesson about the nature of change. Innovation is not just inventing something new, it's understanding shifting needs and desires. Blockbuster looked inward. Netflix looked outward, at frustration and convenience. Size and success can create blindness. Confidence becomes complacency. Blockbuster did act, years too late. By then, Netflix had captured the market and customers' loyalty. You must invest ahead of the curve, even at the cost of some short-term profit. Blockbuster didn't fail because people stopped loving movies. It failed because it refused to change how people watched them. Listen to your customers. Watch technology and culture shift. And never ever believe you are too big to fail. The blue and yellow sign is gone, but the lesson will endure for a long, long time. If you want more stories like this, subscribe. There are many more coming.